group because we have deep technical knowledge and we have a lot of broad business knowledge. And our approach is to try to bring those things together.
There's like the HR talent experience team, and then there's the IT team, and they're always butting heads like this. Prime for siloed people, cliques, and people talking around each other, and there being rumors, so it doesn't feel like a cohesive team a lot of the time.
The team that's focused solely on traditional IT is not positioned well to help with how technology could be more strategically used in the business, right? They care about desktop support and making sure that the network is secure.
Giving them a tool doesn't make someone successful. Being able to use that tool to solve a business problem is what makes them successful.
Where we tend to focus is kind of that layer above, where we try to take all of those technology and those tools that you have as an organization and help you leverage them at that business user level so that you're effectively accomplishing your mission in the most efficient way possible.
Because you want every employee, from a person who's managing an office all the way to somebody out in the field or even executive level, you want all of them to be working together.
How do we optimize them? How do we bring them into a technology world where it can do things for us instead of relying on a manual process?
What I care about is that you have the right tool for the job. And so to that end, we're gonna evaluate that and tell you, no, don't do it with that tool. If you're able to use technology more effectively, the people that are supposed to be focused on the mission of the organization can actually do more missional things because the tech is handling the rest.
Having a successful outcome of the project, there's no question that we're going to do everything we can to make that happen. We set ourselves up as an organization that is our focus, that's our guiding light, and so it pervades everything we do. Bulb Digital helps organizations transform their business using technology.
We help businesses use technology better so that their people work better together.
All right. Here we are.
Another month.
We are in our new studio. So we have to thank everyone for your patience. You're getting everything up and running. We're pretty excited. We're in an expanded location. I don't know if people can tell from the camera that
probably not
we're
too
in a
much.
new spot, but it feels exciting. It feels new. If you're here for the first time, I just want to welcome you to our office hours. I'm Emma, and I'm joined by Matt. And here at Bulb Digital, our mission is to make others successful. So that's where office hours kind of came in, where we wanted to open up an hour of our time once a month, the first Wednesday of every month, where we just chat about issues that you're facing, problems with Microsoft 365, or just issues and business problems or ideas that you're kind of working through and seeing how we can help with those. So if you're joining, you're either seeing us through YouTube or through Teams. If you're on Teams, you actually can come off mute and we can talk through your questions. So for next time, if you're joining on YouTube, definitely register for our Teams event, and then you can join kind of in the elevated way. But if you're on YouTube, you can always post your questions in chat, and we'll talk to you there. So either way, post your questions in chat. We've got quite a few questions actually submitted already, so that's what we're going to start with. But before we dive in, I'd love to hear where people are joining from. If you can post in the chat where you're joining from. We're here in kind of gray, wintry, snowy Michigan. Would love to hear where others are joining. So post that in YouTube or in Teams where you're joining from. All right, so that's kind of it for housekeeping. I don't think I missed anything else. We're going to jump right into our first question, which really revolves around communication, collaboration, and using Teams, which thankfully we've got a resident expert, Matt, here. So I'm going to read it out. Mitch, just so you know, we're going to work through Scott's question. So this was submitted back in December, and it's a good one. So he read our blog called "You Might Be Using Teams Wrong," and I will actually post that blog in the chat. So he was reading this blog, and he had a big question, or a question about private channels. So he quoted us. The quote he pulled out was, "One of the biggest reasons people wouldn't do this is that when you add a new channel to a Teams shared workspace, it inherits the permissions from the Teams shared workspace. In many cases, they really want the new channel to just be accessible to a subset of the users within the larger Teams shared workspace. But you never mention private channels," he says. "What is your opinion as to how private channels fit into the structure that you talked about in this blog?
Yeah, private channels are a challenge. They're a challenge. If they worked effectively, very similar to regular channels, standard channels, had all the same features, everything was the same, I think it doesn't matter. Choose what you want. Doesn't really matter. And if you could switch between them, if you could go, oh, this is no longer a private channel, and I can make this one a private channel, and
So that's an important distinction, because for some people watching, they may not realize private channels have different capabilities, features than a standard channel. So that's like a good assumption to start at.
And you have to choose at the beginning what you're doing.
And
there's not a switching
really
back and forth. It's no, I want to make this private. Oh, I want to make this public. There's none of that, right? And so, that's one of the challenges with it. As we mentioned before, one of the reasons people would do it is to have this subset of people, but then you can't do shared channels, and you can't do all of the apps, and you can't do Planner, and you can't do, because when you think about it, a very common scenario is like, oh, I'm going to create a team, and it's going to be a team for my entire, we're a 10-person company. It's going to be a team for everybody in my company.
Or everyone
Great.
on marketing
Awesome,
or
right?
something, yeah.
Well, now I have the leadership team. Right? I've got 4 people that are doing some other thing. So make another channel for that. And I'll make it a private channel because it needs to be little secret, super secret discussions.
Yeah, confidential.
And then you're like, oh, I want to do Planner. Oh, I can't.
Oh, shoot.
And then what they do is and then what people read is they go, oh, well, I'm just going to add it to the group, because when you're in Planner, you go, what group? And they go, oh, I want to be part of this group. But you can't choose a channel. And so now what they really did is they think that it's private, but it's really available to everybody.
Risky.
Right?
Yeah. Yikes.
There's nuance to it. If private channels were the exact same, everything could be the same, and you could flip back and forth with them, I'd be like all about them all the time. How I think about private channels is the moment I say private channels, I go, what is it for, right? If it is literally for some chatting, some a little bit of private stuff that's all by yourself, and it's very, very limited, I'm like, sure, great. If there's any inkling that it's going to be a bigger thing, just make another team. Yeah. Especially given where Microsoft currently is heading in regards to combining chats and channels. In the new chats and channel world where you can organize those channels right up next to each other, in the world where you can see all the channels next to each other without the teams as part of it, you're in a world where the team aspect of it is being deprioritized and the channel aspect of it is being prioritized independently. So in that world, even now today more, but even in the past, private channels are kind of like, sometimes, sure. Like I use private channels. It is a thing. We would use them. Yeah. We use them on our teams. We'll create a team that has everybody and a private channel that just has our team. So we have external people in the public, in the main thing, and then we'll have a private channel just for us. But we are also more than okay with all of our customers seeing the status of all of our planner boards, right?
Right.
We do not protect our planner boards from our customers.
We actually want them.
I want them to be engaged. I want them to see it. We have zero fear about somebody going, oh my goodness, you're going to spend 10 hours on this thing? I question that. That's not okay. You need to. We have zero concern about that.
Right.
That is another aspect of this channel conversation. We also would tell people, unless there's a real reason to stop someone from having access, why make it private, right? It used to be you'd make it private for notification purposes, because people would get notified all the time and they'd be like, oh my goodness, I see all this stuff. Now you can mute things. Now you can, there's a different notification pattern.
Yep.
Again, we would challenge the norm and say, hey, you don't really probably always need to be doing private channels all the time. Yep. And if you do, maybe you should think about just making a team.
Well, and I would agree with you. I want to be careful with my words. I don't want to say, oh, you should just be making a team all the time because of the new chats and channels situation. Either. But I will say, I think I used to be much more, you should make a team, you should have very dedicated channels. But now with the new chat and channel interface, I am more open to there being more like one channel teams, if that makes sense, because of the new structure and the way that it's laid out. It's just a lot easier to condense all of that.
Yeah.
Something I noticed, and I don't know if we've posted our podcast about this yet, our chats and channels, but if you have just one channel within a team, it will actually be called in your chats and channel list in the new interface. It'll just be called whatever that team name is. Yeah. So you don't have to worry so much about
so when you drag it out and put it into a space where it would only show the one, instead of being named general, or all, it's going to automatically label it the name of the team, which is helpful.
Yeah. So just food for thought, especially if you're kind of trying to figure out, hey, what should my structure be as far as channels under a team or a subset of people? It's a lot to think about, and like Matt said, it's very nuanced, but great question, Scott, and thanks for reading the blog. All right, let's go to Craig's question. This was posted kind of late December to us. He says, how should I persuade someone who is dead set, love this, on using Outlook Classic, even with the prospect of it phasing out, and taking measures to continually restore the desktop link to the app after it restarts to make the jump and enjoy all of what new Outlook offers? So his question in a nutshell is, how do I help someone stop using Classic Outlook and start using new Outlook?
It's a complicated question. I'm going to answer this question. I'm going to put on 3 different hats because I don't know who this person is or where their position is. I'm going to first talk about it from the perspective of I'm the technology champion, VCIO, CIO, executive leadership on the thing, IT person in charge, whatever that might be, right? I'm going to be thinking about, okay, what do these people need? What's missing? And then there is we can share the link, but there's actually a really nice article that Microsoft has that talks about the gaps, right? Like what does the new Teams not do that the old Teams does do? And is it in progress? Is it scheduled? Is it, we're not doing it, whatever that might be. And I'm going to be watching that. And when enough of them, I'm going to have a threshold and I'm going to say, when this is it, I don't care what Microsoft says, but on this date, when this feature sets are all available, we're switching, right? Because we're not going to wait for Microsoft, because when Microsoft does it, it happens to us, and we need to not let things like this happen to us. So that's a difference in mentality from if you have that control, right? Now let's say that I'm a boss, or I'm a project manager, or I'm someone who's working with people, and you have a feature within Outlook that I want to use, that I need to use to make the project work better, to make everything work for what I'm trying to do, what we're trying to do as an organization. I might have a conversation and say, explain, hey, we need to use this new one because there's these features that are better. What's the blockers so I can understand that? And how big of a deal really is that? Like, how can we get there from here? Or, when can we be there, right? Because, this is important to me from a project perspective. Lastly, which is probably the one that we're talking about really, it's you and me, and we actually had this experience.
I didn't want to use it.
She was like, I don't want to use it. Yeah. It was simply just talking about on a regular basis. Hey, like, I understood a little bit of what Emma's concerns were when there were new things. I was like, yeah, I know, because she got frustrated when it first started.
There was a couple glitches.
There were a couple bugs and things that were annoying to you. Yeah. And I was like, hey, I've been using it for another month. You should give it a try. She gave it a try the next time, and took about a week or so, and she was like, I'm not going. I don't want to go back, right? I don't want to be.
You showed me a couple of the features that you were finding really useful.
Yeah, that you couldn't do in the old.
And some of it was actually just literally seeing it on your computer and seeing the interface and seeing you navigate a little bit. Because our desks are next to each other, so that helped too, of just taking the time to let me see it. And then the toggle is really nice too.
So you can switch back and forth. Yeah. But for me, it's all about. For me, it's all about having an understanding. Like, there was a mention here about like just ignoring even though the prospect of it's being phased out. It's not about a prospect. It's going away. It's gonna have to happen. There is no choice. No person in the universe is going to be able to stick on the old Outlook. That's just not a possibility. The question is, what's the thing that's stopping you, and how can I help you monitor that, help you understand it, help you understand the alternatives, because quite frankly, there's a number of things that Microsoft is doing with this move that is trying to force people to work differently, right? PSTs, for example, stored on local machines is a problem. I know a lot of users don't feel that way. I know that that is going to be a hot take for some people, but locally stored email storage is a problem, and it is not okay for like the vast majority of organizations. And so that's why it wasn't included in the first version. And that's why even now when they did add it to the product, you can turn it off as an admin. So I, as an organization, can say, even though Microsoft has added this PST support, nope, you users cannot use that.
I did post that. I think that this is the article that you were talking
Yeah,
about,
I think it is
the
too.
feature comparison.
I think it is too,
Because that was actually just updated this past November.
Correct.
We've got a couple other Outlook questions coming in through this. Tanya asks, will new Outlook break flows?
No, because Outlook is, flows aren't actually tied into Outlook. Even though they call it the Outlook connector, you're connected to Exchange, the server behind it. Outlook is the client that accesses Exchange as well to actually view your email. All of your flows are directly related to Exchange, not Outlook. I know it can be confusing, but that's technically how it works.
Okay. And then the other question, does new Outlook make customization, accessibility edits easier, better, more robust? Question mark.
Those are some broad terms you're using. Easier, better, more robust. Yes. Depending on your perspective, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the eye of the beholder, right? So the way that add-ins and customizations could be done previously are changing. You cannot create the same kind of add-ins. The add-ins that you need to create must be basically the ones that are compatible with web are also compatible with Outlook on desktop, and as a result, that makes them more robust. It makes them more compatible. It makes them more, some of these other things. But at the same time, there's some stuff it can't do because it doesn't have the same level of access because the application isn't the same as it was before. When people think about client-side rules versus server-side rules, et cetera, it's just different. It's very, very different. Generally speaking, the answer to your question, in my opinion, this is opinion-based, yes, I think it is better, more robust, but it is different is the key.
Yeah. Another person here, Alan, writes, personally, I didn't move to new Outlook because it couldn't handle sending spreadsheets from inside Excel, but I just tried it and it looks like they finally fixed that.
Yeah, so one of the big complaints that a lot of people had was like your one is a little bit different, but it's very similar. And I was frustrated with it for a while. You couldn't double click on a file and have it open in Excel or Word or whatever.
Yeah,
you had
that's
to
annoying.
Download
that's
it and
annoying
open
enough
it.
that it would,
But they changed it.
Yeah.
That was it's all a function of they're moving fast. They took what was on the web. The web worked a certain way and it made sense in the web version.
Right.
And so
but there's certain little features like that everyone really likes.
And if you're doing that all the time, you can be like, oh, I'm out. But the truth of the matter is the amount of change that's going on in Outlook and the amount of features that they're adding, it's an incredible amount of features that they're adding all the time.
Yeah, so it's worth switching at this point.
Yep.
Cool. We've got a couple other actually previously submitted questions, but they're all from one poster. So I might do one from her, and then we'll switch over to do some of these.
And I don't see her at least in the
right now
Teams version. So.
Well, actually, let's just set hers aside for just a second. Then.
Okay.
We'll come back to that because we've got a lot of meat there. Let's read Ian's question. This is all about Viva Goals. Do you have any suggestions for Viva Goals replacement? We are currently using an add-on called TeamFlect, but we were looking into dropping that and fully using Microsoft 365 solutions. But with Viva Goals dropping, this is now a question.
That is a great question. I would ask
call
the your Microsoft rep and tell them to bring it back. I don't know that I'm not prepared for what the change has been. It's only been a little bit while since they announced it. I don't have an answer for where you want to go with it. My first answer is I kind of hope that enough people are having the response that you're having and going, this is what I'll step back and I'll give you a hot take. I think Microsoft started with Viva Goals, and that was one of the first things they built into Viva that was a separate thing, and it was ahead of its time. It's a tool that is really good for people who are medium to advanced in their communication collaboration journey. So when you get to a point where you start to say, I am going to move out of spreadsheets and I am going to move out of email and I'm gonna do those things, you need a tool that can do what Viva Goals can do. And so for me, I don't understand it. I don't understand why they would get rid of it. The only thing that makes sense to me is that they didn't have enough usage, and I can understand that as well. I know there's a lot of people who started to use it and then got frustrated. Their frustration came from the fact that the other Microsoft tools weren't ready and they weren't ready, right? Like the combination thereof. And so I don't know. Like my gut feeling is put comments and tell people that you don't want to get rid of it. You know, obviously you didn't buy it today, but I wish they would keep it myself because I think it's a piece of the puzzle that is valuable, but my biggest frustration is they have not provided an alternative yet. It's not clear what their plan is.
Yeah, and Ian, we can let your microphone and that sort of thing be on if you want to give us more context of kind of what you were using Viva Goals for. I know you posted something here too, but.
Yeah, Ian just said, I wonder if they're folding this into Planner somehow. I mean, Viva Goals was like they were using it in Planner. That's one of the things that's really confusing, quite frankly. They don't appear to be folding it in because they haven't announced any features or components that would actually imply that. You know, again, maybe it's poor communication on their side. They just posted something in the message center saying that we have a year, and in between now and the year, when the year's up, they're going to do it. That's completely possible, but it is a little baffling, quite frankly.
Hey everybody, yeah, we're using TeamFlex to track OKRs.
Yep.
So when I learned about OKRs, my colleague was actually showing me that she used Planner.
Yeah.
At a different institution. I work in higher education. And I thought, well, that's a good tool, but I don't know if it's necessarily the right tool for this. And that's where we stumbled upon TeamFlex, which is an add-on to Teams. And what's great is we can pull this up and share this across our teams to show all of our progress. We can make it public. It's a lot more graphical than like an Excel spreadsheet.
Yep.
So I'm looking for a replacement of that, ideally within the Microsoft 365 solutions.
Yep. Right now, there is no clear direction that I can see. And we were actually talking with a customer about this that is heavily using Viva Goals right now. And, you know, it's pretty new in their announcement, right? I mean, I think it came out middle of December or something like that. And I have not seen anything more. If I had to guess right now, they're either going to roll it into something else, provide something else, or maybe they'll get enough feedback that they'll keep it. I don't know.
Yeah. I want to get into the second part of this question, though, because I think this is a good point. Ian, you write, separate but related, TeamFlex, or you're using TeamFlex to handle task management, assignment, and tracking. We talk a lot about tasks within projects for project management, but not so much about managers assigning and managing tasks for non-project items. For example, company training, I can assign a task for my team individually, and I can see their progress that they've completed this instead of following up. So I'm not really sure of the question in here.
I mean, we talk about that a lot, but then what do you do for the other things? Because it's not really process related.
Okay.
It's like I want somebody to do something. What we do a lot is we create planner boards that are team focused. So there's multiple different ways to be tracking tasks. One is I have a project and has a project board with a project planner that has stuff related to my project. And then I have a board that's related to my team, right? Maybe it's a marketing team, maybe it's a sales team, maybe it's something else. And I would track tasks there. That is in combination with other tools that would be process related, right? So if I have a ticketing system that I get a new request, it comes in, it gets assigned to me, I may be actively working on that as well. So it's a combination of all these things between process, project, and team management. Those are the three real core areas of task management within organizations. And between those three things, you're going to use similar tools for some of them. You can use the same tools for all of them, depending on what you're doing. But the result is you've got these different purposes, and you're just kind of using it that way. Emma loves to create task boards in Loop all the time. And so for us, actually, more often than not today, it'll be a random task board in a Loop that'll get assigned to somebody, and then they'll just be seeing that and be actioning that separately than everything else. Yeah. I don't know that would work in a highly team oriented place. We're a little bit unique in that way in how we work, because it's not, we don't have a marketing team that is only 100% doing marketing, and we don't have a services team that's 100% only doing services. But that's how we do it internally. How we talk about it externally with most of our customers and for their needs, it's a separate planner board for a particular group or team or hierarchy, if you will.
Yeah, and I'm even thinking about, obviously we have tasks that are pretty practical, but then we also have larger goals that we set as a company on a quarterly basis, and we check in those at our stand-ups, which are Mondays, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but we always do a check-in on Monday, hey, how are we tracking towards our quarterly goals on Mondays? So it's more top of mind than even just like digitally. So I guess that would be like
and those aren't tasks.
Yeah, those
right?
aren't really, those are
just the things that we should be, the tasks that we're creating within our teams should be supporting those goals,
to those goals,
themes, those,
which tend to be larger, sort of all company non-project items. Yeah, hopefully that is helpful. Thanks for your questions, Ian. All right. Tanya followed up on the Outlook bit. She was just saying, I was specifically asking in terms of being able to control accessibility, like font size in the list of messages and the folder panes. I have found that I've been able to customize that, maybe not in an accessibility way, but like I switched, so I don't see who the message is from really big. I see the subject of the, I don't know, I just customized a bunch of that stuff. Maybe you could have done that in Classic, but I found it easier to do in New Outlook.
In Classic, you can customize it too much, would be my feedback.
Okay.
In Classic, you could pretty much customize it to the nth degree, and to the detriment. You could make it all crazy.
Well, maybe that's why I never really customized too much, because it was almost overwhelming.
Well, and then when you switch computers,
settings, it was just.
And then when you switch computers, the settings all change, and then you have to reconfigure it all, right? I used to do. This could be a long story, but I used to have a very specific way I liked my Outlook, and I was like really tied to it.
That doesn't sound like you at all, Matt.
No, it doesn't at all, I'm sure. But I gave up on a lot of that, because every time you get a new computer, it's like, I gotta reconfigure half of it,
all
right?
Of it, and then it all looks so different.
So to answer your question, Tanya, from an accessibility perspective, it's accessible. Customizing it is, you are not going to have the same amount of customization as you had previously in Classic Outlook, and that is by design. That is because there are so many crazy little features that people were using to basically turn Outlook into a business process tool, and that's not what Outlook should be. Outlook should not be the place that's running your business. It should be the thing that is allowing you to message with people.
I missed some comments here on YouTube too. I want to call these out. Abraham writes, I noticed new Outlook sometimes adjust formats within emails. Any idea if this will get fixed when two users are using new and Classic?
Say that one more time.
Well, it sounds like maybe if one person's using Classic and one person is using new, that's adjusting. The new Outlook will adjust the format within the emails.
Yeah, so there is a difference. There is the way that it processes, the way that it sends emails, the format it sends emails in, the new Outlook sends it in a more modern format, which can look different. And so then you can have situations where you're sending emails back and forth between people with Classic and modern, or in the new, and you can have situations where that doesn't quite look right. I would expect that that's the reason why they want to get rid of Classic Outlook.
Yeah, just
so then it's all just one.
So then we don't have to deal with that.
Their game plan is make that happen ASAP, as soon as possible. If you didn't know, we've been announcing it in our digest and stuff. New Outlook went live or GA in September, October, somewhere in there. So it's like full. They consider it to be good enough to go to production, and then in the last 3 weeks, they announced at the end of this next year, sometime, I forget the exact date, they're going to force everyone into New Outlook with the option to go back, right? So what they started with, I don't know, quite a long time ago, here, try New Outlook, right? Like you can choose. Now what they're going to do is on that date, I think it's in October, November, everyone's going to get flipped to new. And if you want to go back, you can still go back, which is just one step closer to you got to go to new. I think, based on what I'm seeing right now, we're definitely within 2 years of new Outlook is the only Outlook.
And Matt mentioned kind of an important thing I wanted to share with all of you. Some of you already know because you're in our digital community, but we do, is it weekly or monthly? It's weekly.
Weekly.
Yeah,
Yep.
we do a weekly digest on what is new in Microsoft that we think actually will impact a lot of end users, will impact us, and we also give kind of context of how we're thinking about the change. I find them super useful. Matt puts them together. So I read them every week, and I know some of those here have liked our messages within the community. But if you want more information on how to sign up for our digital community, we can drop a link. Our name for it is The Workplace. So we'll drop a link and you can learn more there. Really cool spot though, a lot of like-minded individuals joined in there. And Aaron also messaged, I missed the conditional formatting of messages that old Outlook has. Yes, there are some pros and cons for sure.
So, some of those things like conditional formatting, I believe, is coming back to some degree. I don't think it's going to be the exact same as what you could do before, but I believe that's one of the messages or one of the updates that I saw last time I looked at the list of feature comparisons. I think it's on their list to include. And Tanya mentioned, it's bad. The accessibility is bad news for the low vision, for my low vision. I want to be really clear. I think my guess or my expectation is it will have features that will help with accessibility because Microsoft as a whole is committed to that. Yeah. However, it likely will not be as custom. Like if you really wanted to do something special just for you and the way you work for your accessibility, that may be the thing that is a little bit more missing.
Less customization, yeah. Okay. Great comments, everyone. Keep dropping your questions or challenges that you're facing or things you're trying to do in 2025 in the chats. Just quick disclaimer, there was some confusion on the Teams. You don't need to put your question in the Q&A. You can just put it right in the chat. So if someone put stuff in the Q&A, I can see there's a notification there. We can flip over and see what questions in there. So let's dive into, Matt, this question from Lynn.
Yeah.
So she was asking all about Planner and using it for her team. So I'll just start at the top. She says, how do I set up my Planner so that in addition to managing the team task for our daily project, we could report on all projects, managed all status, and then 2 projects completed by month, including past projects?
Yeah, so this is probably, in my opinion, one of the big weakest areas for standard Planner that's out there. There is no way to do this out of the box for Planner, basic Planner, okay? If you do it, it's all about, building a custom flow that puts stuff into a SharePoint list or into Dataverse, or there's third-party tools that you can do that will pull it out and allow you to use Power BI. Basically, if you're doing a project, the way that Microsoft currently, I'm hopeful that they have some sort of resolution to this, but if you want to be able to report on those things and roll them up, you need to be using Planner Premium. So with Planner Premium, you can create your own Power BI reports because everything is stored in Dataverse that would roll all that stuff up. Look at tasks, look at projects, look at the status, look at where, you can do anything you want with Planner Premium in that regard. So, the answer to this question overall is don't use Planner Basic, use Planner Premium, and then use Power BI to do that reporting and roll up and management. They also have in Planner Premium the option to do a little bit more portfolio things, but honestly, it's annoying, quite frankly. They are struggling, I think, because they've got the Planner Premium team, which is all about Planner or about project, like big time project. And then they've got the Planner team, which is all about, I just want to help people do their job daily. And I think there's a little bit of conflict between the two in that the Planner people are like, oh, we want to do reporting across projects. And then the project people are like, well, if you do that, they might use that instead of buying our service, and we want to make money. And I don't really care. At all levels, you should be able to report and roll up on this stuff, and they just don't. And it's unfortunate, but as the answer today is, or my recommendation today would be, use Planner Premium and use Power BI reports to roll up that stuff. That is the correct, ideal, best option today.
Okay. excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. Okay, so her second question here, I think that's a really good answer. Planner Premium is likely her solution to everything that's going on there. Her second question is all about templates within Planner. So is there a best practice type of template for Microsoft Planner set up to manage homogeneous projects? Our projects are relatively homogeneous. I don't know, there's a missing word there, to keep everyone on the same page. However, we find that it is not able to provide the reports we need. There's still a lot of manual input into Excel, all of that.
Which a lot of that is going back to the same thing. Use Planner Premium instead of Planner. And yes, it's going to cost you money. Yes, it's going to have an expense. It's better than what it used to be. It used to be that Planner for a project for the web, you had to pay for most everyone that would do anything. Now you only have to pay for the people who are actually doing project management, real project management work, which I think was a huge improvement to what that is. But that's what I would do. I would 100% use, if you're already dedicated to using Planner, use Planner Premium, and you'll find that things are significantly better from that reporting perspective. The ease of use will be maybe a little bit less. It's not like a lift. That's part of the problem, is it's not a direct migration, which is why I wish Microsoft would just add a few of those features into Planner Basic, but it is what it is.
And you kind of answered this next question she had of what's your criteria and consideration for choosing Planner versus project for the web. But I think you're kind of answering that in a lot of different ways in the last couple of things you said.
That's exactly right. What I like, Planner for the web is where, which is now Planner Premium, is
project for the web is now Planner Premium.
I said Planner for the web, not a thing. Project for the web is
could
now
have been a name. You never know. They almost probably.
You never know with Microsoft. You never know. But Project for the web, which is now Planner Premium, that's where I would head if you're really invested in the roll-up in the management. Planner Basic is really about a small team managing a thing that doesn't need to be rolled up. It doesn't need to be automatically assessed or managed. It's really just for that kind of small team kind of management.
Okay. And I think this other question she posted is a little bit too detailed
complicated,
for us to get in on this call. So I'm going to switch back over to our Teams feed here. This is actually very funny to me because, Ian, we were just talking about blog posts this morning.
An hour and a half ago?
And I actually think you are going to be writing a blog somewhat similar to this topic. But Ian writes, I'd love to see your thoughts dumped into another blog post about what Matt just highlighted, project management tasks versus team management tasks like training, credit card reconciliations versus the third leg he mentioned, which I think you had mentioned, like process.
There's process management, project management, and team management. So I'm a manager of a team. I need to manage my team. They all get related. They all get mixed up together. And probably one of the biggest problems is everybody would love a world where you can do all of those things all at the same time, and that only works in pretty specific scenarios. But we hear you. This is not an uncommon request. We've gotten actually a ton of feedback on your YouTube video about process and project management, where that people want process. They want us to talk about process. So it's on our list. We're thinking about it.
It is such a key distinction, though, and I want to give credit to Matt for really calling that out almost maybe a year ago. I don't remember. It was during one of our webinars where we were talking about, hey, we need to use these tools for project management, and you said, hang on a second, I think a lot of people don't understand that there's a difference between process versus project. And there was someone that actually commented on, I think it was my video, of just recognizing that difference. This person says, I didn't realize until you said that this is why I always struggle with project management software. I'm trying to use it for both projects and processes. A little guidance would be really helpful. So definitely credit to Matt for kind of decoupling those two things. And like he said, I've got a video out there on using these tools for project management, but thinking through how to use them for process, or even if they're well equipped for that. Is definitely a topic we're
definitely looking at it. I don't know that we're going to get one that's exactly the way that we were just talking about it.
Sure.
Maybe not. We're very in the early
feedback.
We're in the early stages, so I will take that under advisement.
Yeah, it's good. Okay, this is my chance to sort of reset the room and ask you guys what other things you're working on. YouTube, you've been kind of quiet. If there's anyone on YouTube, post in the chat any questions you have about Microsoft 365, the tools, using them to achieve your 2025 goals. Let's see. Oh, that's great to hear. I just shared your PM video with a colleague who's helping us with building renovations. Awesome. That's exciting. Yeah, and these things are hard to keep up with because even in that video that I put together, I don't think I was using the new UI the new design of the Teams chats and channels.
It was
so
probably not available.
it's so hard because it's like, oh, we just recorded
changes
that
all the
and
time.
now it already looks different. So hopefully people will figure it out. But
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is like a lot of the stuff we're talking about is we talk about it a lot. It's not training people on the tools is in a lot of ways the easy part. The hard part is getting people to think about the tools correctly or appropriately, or to recognize that, oh, this thing I'm asking it to do isn't really what it's meant to do, or I'm asking it to do something that is what I want, but it's not what I should want in some ways. And so that stuff transcends a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You know, what I was just talking about that difference, it's always going to be, you're always going to have those types of things. You know, a task or a thing is either going to be related to a project, which traditionally has a timeline and a budget and all these things, or it's related to a process, which is like a constant flow of stuff that's coming in and I just have to go do that thing. Or it's going to be related to, oh, you know, I have a team that I work with and we're part of this group doing this other thing. It's always going to have that no matter what tools we're talking about, no matter what, you know, technology, it's always going to be there.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to ask everyone to put your creative hat on because we don't have other questions yet. Well, we've had one. I'll switch over to that. But put your creative hat on, and because we were just doing blog brainstorming this morning, what other blog topics, if you could like write the title of our next blog, what would it be? Throw that in the chat. I would be curious what people would come up with. Or podcast topics, because we're always looking at, you know, what is our audience? What do you guys want to hear from us? So throw those in the chat if you have ideas. We're definitely open to that.
And if we don't have any other questions, I can talk a little bit more about.
There is one on YouTube, but yeah.
Okay.
This one's actually interesting. I want to get your take on this one. Okay, Brandon, hello. It's been a while since I asked about our digital transformation strategy a few months back. It has been a wild ride, but I can confirm that we are on a paradigm shifting course. Yeah, he says, thank you. That's awesome. All right, so your question is, can you give me a 10,000-foot recommendation on developing Copilot agents to assist with both project management and development? It's a $1 million question, Brandon.
That's a good question.
Yeah. We're just starting to look into it.
I'm gonna ask him. I'm gonna answer it. I'm gonna ask when you said assist with project management, meaning helping a project manager manage a single project, or helping a project manager understand how to project management. That would be. I would take
it as, I'm working on a project. I don't have a project manager. I want Copilot, because you know how they like. Microsoft put out that video, and it basically makes it look like your Copilot agent can be your project manager.
Yeah.
How do you set it up, though? Yeah. Well, that would be the way I took it. I don't know if that's
thinking administrative, huge projects.
Administrative tasks.
Got it.
Okay.
So like what you're saying, how do I use it to help with that?
Because I want to do the work. I need it to do the project management.
Yeah. So I don't know for us. For us, Copilot Teams Premium, honestly, has been the biggest transformational tool for us related to Copilot, project management, and doing tasks. That is because it has transformed our ability to have effective meetings.
Yes.
And effective meetings is not so much the meeting itself. I probably should rephrase that.
Capture the knowledge of the meeting.
Capture the information, effectively utilize the information that got created in those meetings, right?
Yeah.
Which is why that facilitator that Microsoft has been talking about is really interesting and important, and it's why some of the features that they're rolling out are really important. By far, that is the big thing for us right now. And I don't mean like nothing else is valuable. That is such low-hanging fruit. It just costs money and a little bit of training, and you can get so much tremendous value out of just that. It's hard to explain and quantify and express how much value you can get from that.
When you say facilitator, he asks, to clarify the facilitator. Are you talking about the little facilitator notes that we toggle on?
Yeah,
What do you mean by
basically
that?
Microsoft created, in a progression of things, Microsoft did transcriptions. So AI to transcribe what you're saying. Well, now we got these transcripts because AI doesn't work super great on videos, like just straight up videos, and it works, but it's like slow. It's not going to be great. What it does work really well and fast on is text, especially ChatGPT, which is what Microsoft bought. So then they said, oh, we're going to use that to create notes, but it'll be recap. It'll be after the meeting, right? Now what they've done is said, well, instead of just having it afterwards, I'm going to have this AI bot that's going to listen in on your meeting. It's called Facilitator. And you're now going to be able to start saying stuff like we are right now, and it's going to automatically, right in process, start taking notes and tasks and like real notes, real meeting recap summary stuff live streamed to what you're doing. That's effectively what the facilitator does today. I'm sure Microsoft's going to add more to it. But even without the facilitator, it's super valuable.
Yeah.
The facilitator just makes it more convenient, more
And the facilitator
easier.
does something even more than just asking Copilot for the questions or even Copilot questions for action items, that sort of thing. The facilitator will create a task table.
Yeah, right in live stream.
Live stream,
yeah.
and then that task can be assigned to the person immediately.
Yep.
So that's, I know Brandon's messaging back. Aside from letting it attend and Q&A as needed, any particular features or automations I might be leaving behind?
I think there's some new stuff coming out. Like even the facilitator is relatively new. I'm not sure that everybody quite has it yet because we're on the I think it's within a month from being everybody having available across the world. But I think there's some more stuff coming out that you should watch out for that can be helpful in that regard. But back to your original question, where I am really interested and it's only starting to become available, it would be things like, especially you mentioned a large project, to start doing things like easily creating SharePoint agents in Teams where I can ask questions of that agent that is directly pointed at the corpus of documents for that project, right? Maybe it's pointed at the design documents, or maybe it's pointed at documentation, and you could ask it questions about, hey, when we're doing this feature of this thing that I'm doing, or on this construction project, why did we make this choice? And it can answer that question directly. Because one of the problems that you have is that one of the problems that Copilot has is what data does it have access to? You have general Copilot, so I can go in and pay for Microsoft 365 Copilot and get a general thing, and I can just have a blank canvas and start writing what I want. That's not super helpful, and Microsoft, with these agents that they're now creating, which is effectively what this would do, you now can say, I want to cut this all down because for this person, maybe it's another person on the team, we have a 10-person team, I don't want them to have to figure out where all this stuff is. I know where this stuff is. I pointed at this stuff, say, hey, you can ask it these questions. Maybe it's at all the meeting notes or all of the recaps that we have for all the meetings. Now, regardless of whether or not I was in the meeting, regardless of whether or not I have the meeting chat, regardless of whether or not the meeting was redone because somebody in the organization left and came back and I don't have it anymore and whatever, we have these notes stored here in Loop or in whatever it might be, and I can now point Copilot at that corpus, and it's targeted, and I can ask it questions. I think there's huge value to be made from that as well, but it's pretty new. It's not out quite yet. The other Copilot stuff, I'm like less. I use it almost every day, but I use it instead of Google in a lot of ways, right? Yeah. And I don't use it as much for business-related like direct activity a lot because I don't trust it and I don't have it correlated that way. But I'm very interested to see.
We'll have to test it out kind of in a small, and just see how we. Yeah. So
well, for us, we don't have a lot. Like, there's probably we have a few projects that are long running that it would probably make sense. Most of our projects are pretty short, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Yeah. However, I've thought about it
like in marketing or something.
Yeah, or on our wire. So for us, for our intranet, I want to create one that says every employee can just ask it a question. Mitch, who's behind the camera, spent, I don't know, it was this free pet project, his free time pet project for a little bit, a bulby agent,
Oh, yeah, like a
probably
bot.
chat bot
This was
that
years
answered
ago.
like, "What's the guest Wi-Fi?" and whatever, right? Now we should be able to go into SharePoint and go, "Hey, I want to point you at these things," and you should just be able to
And then we'd
answer
have
questions.
a Copilot agent for our intranet that could, really help, because sometimes SharePoint search functionality is not great.
Yeah. Or
yeah.
I don't, or in like the search functionality is one thing, but people don't care about search really. Like that's what the beauty of all of this AI stuff
Yeah,
is.
right.
People don't care about
I
the
just
search.
need the
They want the
answer.
answer.
Yeah, right,
And if it takes
right.
4 different pages and combine it all
Yeah.
together, that's so much easier
It's like,
and faster.
oh, that's in the employee handbook. It's like, well, I don't want to read.
I don't
want
want
to
to read which part of the employee handbook, and
yeah.
it's part here and part down here and part over here.
Yeah. Well, Ian commented over in Teams kind of on this topic, which I think is helpful to talk through. How do you capture those notes and content for meetings in real life or face-to-face? I'd love to ask Copilot questions from an in-person meeting after the fact.
Yeah. You want to answer that question?
Sure,
'Cause
I can answer that.
We do meetings.
Yeah. I have a whole webinar called Smart Meetings, which is all about this. But I mean, the short answer is you have to have some type of recording device when you're having the in-person or the face-to-face for you to be able to get the benefit of AI and the benefit of Copilot. So,
Or you have to manually do what everyone's supposed to do, but no one does, which is take notes and
Ugh.
store those notes
it's
online
2025. We're
in a
not
way
taking
that you
notes.
can do it.
No, yeah, one or the other. I mean, yes, if you've taken notes for that face-to-face meeting in Loop, then like
I mean,
Matt
back
was
in
saying,
the 40s, people didn't have AI, and
you
we still
had
had
to
notes.
write everything down. I know, but like Matt was saying, AI and Copilot is going to work the best with text, and so it's not just getting the video recording. The video recording is actually not even that really important. It is the transcript. And so you could have a meeting face-to-face, have your laptop open, and still have a Teams meeting going that's transcribing. You can just turn on transcription instead of record, so it's not as weird, like we're both sitting by this laptop, to be able to capture that transcript and then be able to, we use the word like interrogate the transcript, or just be able to use Copilot to summarize and pull out action items and all of that. But ultimately, you have to have something pulling that transcription in, or you have to take notes.
And
obviously.
I'm gonna make it more clear. We as an organization have a conference room that is set up and easy to do it.
Yes,
We
you
go
just
into
turn it
in-person
on.
meetings.
Yeah.
The meeting she was talking about that we did earlier, most people were in person.
Yeah.
We joined from the conference room. Even when we have 4 people in a conference room,
In person, yeah.
we attempt our best to join the meeting to the conference or join the conference room to the meeting, and do
Click transcribe. Yeah.
transcriptions so that we have that information, right?
Yep.
Now we've invested in the technology. I mean, we've got a bunch of money invested in that thing. It's really easy. You click on some stuff and you've got it, right? And I think my point is, we're growing our space. We're adding some more people. We're doing some more things. When we do that, I'm going to add another conference room. And when I do that, it's going to have similar technology so that it's really easy for my employees to go in, sit down in the room, sit down and have a one-on-one conversation and go, hey, I'm going to, and click.
Yeah. Because, and the thing, and thank you, Craig, for that comment. That makes me feel good. He said Emma does a great job in the Smart Meeting sessions. But the thing that I really, really harp on in the Smart Meetings webinar, which is a thought that Matt had first planted in my head, is when you have face-to-face conversations, when you have meetings, there is something that gets created, right? Like there's knowledge share that happens in those meetings that moves projects forwards, that moves your work forward. And if you're not capturing that, you're going to lose the value of these Copilot agents. You're going to lose the value of notes, of action items, of all the things that you need to track to actually make things happen after that conversation, right? So to be able to even get the value out of Copilot agents in the future, you need to be kind of setting up the building blocks of having smart meetings where you do have AI involved in some way, if you want to in the future really use.
And if you can't, if you're like, hey, I really want to have this as at a coffee shop down the street, accept the fact that you probably need to take notes.
That you have to kind of take on that burden to record, again, that knowledge, that something that gets created out of that conversation. It's all about burden of who's going to do the work. Is it going to be the technology or is it going to be you? Because we all know if you go to a meeting, you have a great conversation, you never do anything about it, then all of that knowledge just dies with that conversation. So it just kind of comes down to, is it going to be tech? Is it going to be you?
So I know we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna out Emma. So just so you all know, this is gonna be Emma's last video recording with us. She is taking another job, going somewhere else, which is unfortunate. We're all sad and happy for her because I think she's pretty excited about where she's going. She's going to a much larger organization in the same area. I think she's excited about the challenges of a much, Fortune 500 kind of company. But it's going to be her last time on video. I know there was a lot of comments about the smart meetings. You might have to put up with me being on the smart meetings things now. I know I'm not as good,
it's so fun.
But it'll be good.
Yeah, well, it's been so fun, and I will actually probably be joining Office Hours as a participant in the future. So you may still see me around because I still gotta get my questions answered by Matt. So yeah, no, this has been so fun. Thank you all so much for joining, and for those of you in sunny Florida, I am very jealous. I know we posted where people were joining from, but I hope everyone has a great rest of your Wednesday, and join Bulb Digital again next month, first Wednesday of the month. They'll be here.
We'll be here.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.